In the pines where the sun never shines, and I shiver when the cold winds blow. My girl, where will you go? I'm going where the cold winds blow. In the pines where the sun never shines, and I shiver when the cold winds blow. Her husband was a hard-working man, just about a mile from here. His head was found in a driving wheel. His body was nowhere there. In the pines where the sun never shines, and I shiver when the cold winds blow. In the pines where the sun never shines, and I shiver when the cold winds blow. The Stairway to Nowhere. Now, on the campus of the University of Georgia in Athens, Georgia, there's a very strange staircase. It's one of the creepiest spots on campus. The reason it's so creepy is because it's a staircase that literally leads to nowhere. It's in one of the buildings on campus, and it just goes straight into the wall, and then it ends. Now, at the end of that staircase, somebody put up a poster. It's an old photograph from the apartment of the German writer Goethe, and it's a photograph of a mirror in the apartment, and it's an optical illusion, so it looks like a never-ending hallway of door frames going off into infinity. Now everybody wonders, why is there a staircase that leads to nowhere? Folks say when they go into that place and stand on the staircase, they get chills, they'll get cold flashes. Some people say they even feel something brush their hair, brushed by their legs. So why is there a staircase to nowhere in the University of Georgia? Now, staircases, they're famous for being haunted places. A lot of haunted houses, the staircase is the place that the most ghost stories happen around. And that's true for a haunted house that I've written a lot about, which is my own alma mater. It's a university right in San Diego, California, Point Loma Nazarene University. The old house of Madame Tingley, who built that place when the Theosophists lived there. Now, her staircase is very strange, but I'm not here to tell you about her staircase. You have to buy my books to read about her staircase. Shameless plug! But this staircase at the University of Georgia, far away from San Diego, folks say it's one of the most haunted spots on campus. Now, that campus, it's one of the oldest universities in the United States, goes way back before the Civil War. And in fact, the building that the staircase to nowhere exists in, that building, it was named after an old Georgia governor, Joseph Brown. He was a governor, he was a pro-secessionist governor, not exactly one of the good guys, but they named the building after him. And in fact, his name appears, if you watch the movie Gone with the Wind or read the book, Governor Brown is mentioned in the book and the movie. So, very historic building. And nowadays that building is used for the offices and classrooms of the Germanic and Slavic Languages Department. But why is there a staircase to nowhere in that building? Now, that history goes back more recently than Governor Brown and all the ancient history of Georgia. It goes back as recent for a lot of us, as the 1970s. See, in 1971, it was a boys' dormitory. That whole building was, and it's a lovely building. That building, it forms a U shape of buildings, and it's all like a lot of buildings on the campus of UGA. It's red brick with that lovely old Southern style, and it was a boys' dormitory. To this day, the main entrance to that building, if you walk in there, you can see what used to be the fireplace and the common room where the boys would sit around and talk about the girls they were dating and talk about their classes. Well, in 1971, everyone went off to Christmas vacation, and the whole place got locked up. The Christmas vacation, it lasted 2 or 3 weeks like it usually does. But when everyone came back, they walked up those stairs to where the second story of the dormitory was, and they got up there, go into their rooms, and the first boys in, they were just overcome with this overpowering, horrible smell, just this stench of rotten. They started looking around. Finally, they found in one of the rooms, one of the boys had stayed behind. He'd hung himself in his room. Now they called the authorities and they got the body down. They cleaned it up. And enough time had passed over Christmas break that I don't want to go into too many details in case any of you are eating or drinking, but they said the body didn't even look human after that much time. So they cleaned it up and they got everything squared away. Well, almost. I mean, nobody was quite sure what had really happened. There was no suicide note left. People thought it was a suicide, but then other folks started to whisper that maybe it was murder. Maybe it was foul play, or maybe it was a tragic accident. Some people to this day say that it might have been an involuntary suicide, and he might have been strangling himself for other reasons. I won't go into details on that either. If you're wondering why someone would strangle themselves when they're not trying to kill themselves, well, you can talk to your parents about that. They'll tell you. But whatever the cause of death was, it was tragic, it was sudden, it was mysterious. And those are the kind of deaths that kind of leave something behind on a place. Deaths that are tragic, surrounded by anguish or unexpected, of people who have their whole lives ahead of you. Those are the kinds of deaths that kind of leave a residue on a place. And in the case of Joe Brown Hall, I mean that quite literally, there was some kind of residue that they couldn't get rid of. Now that stench, it stayed there. They cleaned and cleaned and cleaned that place, but they couldn't get that rotten stench out of that top story of the boys' dormitory. And more than that, the cleaning staff came through, they used all the products they could on the floor. No matter how well they scrubbed it and even painted it and repainted it, well, those blood stains, they just kept coming back. They couldn't get the blood stains to stop coming back. So eventually, they gave up. And they turned it into classrooms and offices. But that whole top story, that whole second floor where those boys' dormitory rooms had been, they just walled it all up. There's nothing else they could do with it. They walled it all up, and they walled it right where that staircase led to those boys' dorm rooms. There's just a solid wall there right now, where that boy, Stanley Haddock, was found hung over Christmas break in 1971. But even so, despite all of that, people who go to University of Georgia, UGA, people who work there to this day, they say that something is still stuck to that place. Something's hung behind. I talked to folks there. A lot of cleaning staff, they don't like to work in Joe Brown Hall at night. They try to avoid the place. And even some of the professors of Germanic and Slavic languages, they don't like to work late at night. Some of them have said that they've been in their offices late at night. They'll hear strange knocks, footsteps. And some of them say that they'll see a strange face just appear outside the window. Now maybe that's a prank. That would make sense since it has a reputation for being haunted. But some of those teachers, they say they see a face outside their window and they're up on the second floor. There's no way you could climb up there. So I went there when I was in Athens, Georgia earlier this year. I went out there and I checked out that Stairway to Nowhere, and it's a creepy place, all right. You get an eerie feeling going up those stairs, kind of like the stairs at the Whaley House, another San Diego haunted spot. Going up those stairs, now legend says that if you go up there and if you knock on that wall covering up the whole boarded off room, they say if you knock on that wall, you'll hear some faint knocking coming back. Now I went up there and I tried it. I took a video of the place. I didn't hear any knocking, but I pressed my ear up against where that big poster is now. I pushed my ear up and I heard something. I swear to you, I heard something back there. Something like a rustling, like a breathing. It almost sounded like doves or pigeons moving around, maybe cooing. And that might be it. Maybe it is just a family of birds that's moved into that abandoned, empty old room. But there's definitely something back there in that empty room. There's that residue of a tragedy, of a mystery. And that's the history behind a lot of haunted places. But they say that's why that poster was put over the end of the Stairway to Nowhere. That poster, they put it up there because of that optical illusion of the never-ending door frames. Well, they say that that's supposed to lead the spirit of Stanley Haddock on into the next world. Stairways can be creepy places, connections between worlds, between dimensions. Even as far back as the book of Genesis, we hear about stairways connecting this world and the next. So, whatever the truth is behind that stairway to nowhere in Georgia, I just hope that Stanley Haddock has been able to get to the right place. In the pines, where the sun never shines, and I shiver when the cold winds blow. In the pines, where the sun never shines, and I shiver when the cold winds blow. Stairway to Nowhere.